All right, today we're going to dive into a really fascinating corner of ancient Buddhist texts. We're talking about the world of mythical serpents, the Nāgas. And believe me, this isn't just about cool mythological creatures. We're going to unpack a kind of cosmic classification system that reveals some deep truths about cause and effect, and maybe, just maybe, what these ancient beings can teach us about our own lives. So you might be thinking, mythical serpents? Really? What's that got to do with me? Well, here's the thing. The way these old stories classify the Nāgas is actually a brilliant map of how our intentions, our actions, and their consequences are all tied together. So the big question we're exploring is this. What can a mythical serpent, born in one of 4 different ways, actually teach us about the life we're creating for ourselves, right here, right now? Okay, first things first. The texts are super clear on this. There's no such thing as just a Nāga. The cosmos is way more interesting than that. The main way they're categorized is all about their origin story, or to be more specific, how they were born. And it turns out there are 4 totally distinct types. Let's start with the one that's probably easiest to picture. The first category is the Undija, which literally means the egg-born. It's exactly what it sounds like. These are the Nāgas that hatch from an egg, pretty much like the snakes and birds we're all familiar with. Think of this as our baseline, our foundational level. Next up, we have the Jalabuja, the womb-born. Now we're getting a step closer to how mammals do it. These Nāgas are born directly from a mother's womb, a completely different biological setup than laying an egg. So that's type number 2. All right, and this is where things start to get a bit more, well, mystical. The third kind is called Samsaja, the moisture-born. These beings are said to just arise from dampness, from places like decaying leaves or maybe even a puddle of water. It's this idea of life just springing forth directly from the elements. Pretty wild, right? And finally, we get to the most amazing, the most ethereal type of all, the Opapataka. These are the spontaneously born. They don't have a physical birth process at all. No egg, no womb, no moisture. They just appear. They manifest, fully formed right into existence. You can almost think of them as apparitions, pure and simple. So we've got these 4 very different ways a Nāga can come into being, but are they all considered equal? The texts give us a very clear, very loud nope. There is a definite hierarchy, a sort of cosmic ranking system based on just how refined, or you could say how sublime their birth is. The Pali word the texts use for this is panitatara. It basically means more refined or more excellent. And you can see it right here like a ladder. Each step up is considered a more excellent birth than the one before it. The womb-born are a step up from the egg-born. The moisture-born are even more refined than that. And then at the very top, the absolute pinnacle, you have the spontaneously born, the Opapataka. Okay, this obviously brings us to the biggest question of all. How in the world does someone end up as a Nāga anyway? Is it just random chance? Not even close. The texts lay out a very specific karmic recipe. A precise combination of action and intention that leads a being straight to this particular realm. The absolute core ingredient in this recipe is a specific kind of behavior called dvidikari. It means one who acts in 2 ways. A better way to put it is simply being duplicitous or two-faced. And the texts are clear. This isn't just about what you do. It applies to your actions, your words, and even your private thoughts. It's a deep-seated hypocrisy, a fundamental lack of integrity. But, and this is a huge but, that duplicitous action alone is not enough. This is where the formula gets really specific. It has to be paired with a particular wish, a particular aspiration. So picture this. A person is acting in this two-faced way. Then they hear that the Nāgas live for a really long time and have these beautiful, happy lives. And they think to themselves, wow, I want that. May I be reborn as a Nāga? It's that exact combination, the hypocritical action plus the specific desire for that outcome, that seals the deal. Now, here's the part that really makes you stop and think. The texts point out that this can happen even while someone is doing things that look, on the surface, incredibly generous. I mean, look at this list. Giving food, clothing, a place to stay. These are all outwardly virtuous acts. But if they're doing it with a two-faced mind, secretly wishing for the power and luxury they've heard Nāgas have, then that's exactly where their karma takes them. It's an absolutely stunning lesson on how your inner intention can completely change the outcome of your outer actions. So they've made it. They're reborn as a Nāga. Is that it? End of story? Oh, not by a long shot. The texts actually give us this incredible glimpse into the minds of the Nagas themselves, and it reveals a world filled with regret and, more importantly, a powerful hope for change. This moment of self-reflection tends to happen on a special day called the Uposatha. This is an observance day, a time that's set aside for the Nagas to just pause, take a look at their reality, and basically recommit themselves to living a better, more virtuous life going forward. And what's so powerful here is their self-awareness. I mean, the texts quote them directly. They look at each other and say, you know what? We were duplicitous in our past lives, in our bodies, our speech, our minds, and that's why we ended up here. But this regret isn't about despair, it's a catalyst. It moves them to say, come on everyone, let's practice good conduct now. They get it. They understand that their actions today can shape a totally different future, and they hope for a better rebirth, beyond their serpent forms. This really captures that whole transformation perfectly. On the one hand, you have the past, their history, which was defined by that duplicitous conduct, the dvyaya kirino. But then you see their conscious choice, their pivot to the present, a commitment to good conduct, or sucharitam. It's a really powerful story about realizing you've made a mistake and then actively, consciously working to fix it. So let's just zoom out for a second and look at the big picture here. This ancient cosmology, it's not just a bunch of cool myths, you know? It's a really profound teaching on the nature of reality, and it's all beautifully packaged in the story of a serpent. So, what are the big takeaways from all this? First, the power of our intention is everything. The exact same act of giving can lead to totally different places, all depending on the wish that's behind it. Second, our actions and our aspirations are completely tied together. You can't separate them. And maybe most importantly, no state of being is permanent. The Nagas, even though they're in this powerful long-living realm, still aspire for something better. And that shows us that every single being, everywhere, always has the potential for change. And that brings everything full circle, right back to that question we started with. The story of the Naga teaches us that we are, quite literally, the authors of our own future. Our conduct right now, our secret wishes, our deepest aspirations, that's the ink we're using to write the next chapter of our lives. So the final question really is for you. What story are you writing? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.